La 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 la
Hey
la la
folks, I'm Camille
la
Who
la
Armstrong,
la
the performing
la
arts
la
renaissance
la
woman.
la la
For over
la
40 years, I've worked as a performer, educator,
la la
consultant, and coach.
la
But most
la
importantly,
la
I'm a parent. From classrooms to stages to bedtime routines, I've spent my life nurturing creativity, character, and connection in the next generation. This series is for you, whether you're expecting, learning as you go, or parenting for the first time, or even third time around. I'm here to share the insights, tools, and real talk I've gathered over 4 decades of hands on experience. Welcome to Camille Who, the Child Whisperer. I'm so glad you're here. How often are we reacting to our children based on our fears and anxieties as opposed to who they really are? Parents can unintentionally pass on fears and anxieties just and past experiences onto their child without really realizing it. And that's what this video is about. For a time, and I'm still seeing evidences of this with my older children who are adults. But of course, with each child that you have, you learn a little bit more than you did. You know a little bit more than you did with the last child. So by the time I got to my fourth, the anxieties and fears that I had with at that point, I knew how to deal with them better. So I am sharing this with you so that you can be aware of it at your first child. So you're just more mindful of what you could intentionally or you could unintentionally be passing down to your next generation. I always thought that my kids were doing worse things than I was when I was a kid. When in fact I was really afraid of myself. I was afraid of my intentions as a child. I thought that they were doing the same sort of, they were surviving in the way that I was surviving, that they had reasons to be misbehaving as I did, that they had the same restrictions and so they had the same reactions to their restrictions that I did, when in fact I had to realize this, that my parents, my childhood, my time that I grew up in is completely different than my children. My children have different parents. They have a different childhood altogether. They're living in a completely different time and era than I was. So all of those reasons why I misbehaved or don't even exist in my child's experience. They are living completely different experiences and really do not need to misbehave. The the ways that I rebelled, there was reasons why I rebelled. The things that I was frustrated about and behaved as a result of when I was a kid, they don't have those reasons. Those frustrations, they don't have those. They didn't have those. I realized that my own childhood experiences were my own childhood experiences. My fears were my own fears. My anxieties were my own anxieties. My fears were usually rooted in past experiences, that were really just past behavior. As I started to work more and more with parents and their children, being an educator, being a nanny, I realized that I wasn't the only parent that did this, that pretty much most of us, if not all parents, do this. We just impose things on our children that wouldn't normally. First of all, it does not serve their highest good. It doesn't serve their better selves. It doesn't serve their destiny. It actually blocks them. It actually cripples way of thinking that they're supposed to have, and it could possibly and intentionally, and a lot of times it happens, cripples their destiny. For example, a parent takes their child out and their child likes to climb and they like to explore and climb trees and climb really just high heights and things like that. And I'm saying this from personal experience. But um and so a parent tends to really panic. They panic. They're like, ah, don't, ah, ah, ah. There's this freak out moment that's happening every time their child climbs or explores something that's really high up. What your child is learning at that point is they're now learning that, which it's not true. This is just because the parent is creating this negative memory that's attached to this experience for the child. The child is now, what they're in turn learning is that that's not good, that they should be afraid of it, that their parent is going to freak out. So there's this negative association to this thing that they would naturally do. And what ends up happening is the child, what if that child is supposed to be a tightrope walker? What if they're supposed to be an aerialist? What if they're supposed to be a pilot? What a parent doesn't realize is now they're instilling this fear that then takes years of repairing for their child. Because if their child is destined to be any one of those things, then they have to spend years honing these crafts, right? And they actually, part of their childhood has to be them exploring these things, but it stunts them. It deters them from naturally exploring these things, and so they tend to stop. And so now there's years that have been wasted. You become an adult and you're like, oh my goodness, I could have been an aerialist. At this point, I realized that that was not even my fear, that was my mom's fear. And so it's frustrating as an adult when you realize I'm just, and what am I supposed to be doing here in my life? And then you start to examine all of that and you realize, oh my goodness, I could have been a pilot. I could have been, an aerialist. This is what I really love doing, but I didn't realize that wasn't my fear. It was my mom's fear, or it was my dad's fear. So this is what we potentially have. We run the risk of imposing on our child, which then turns into a whole lot of wasted time in their lives and possible resentment because we sort of, we get upset at our parents because our parents don't know and they're not aware of it. And you know what? Our parents are actually, they're victims of the same thing. Their parents instilled certain fears and anxieties and worries that weren't theirs either, right? And so this sort of gets passed down generationally. So hopefully I'm giving you some sort of awareness, bringing some sort of awareness that you are mindful of, of those potentials, and that you hold that responsibility in your hands. So before you raise your children, be mindful. Before reacting, ask yourself, is this fear based on my past, or is it based on an actual thing that is happening in this time, real time? Ask yourself, am I just assuming what I think my child's intent is? Am I projecting my own experience onto theirs? That happens a lot. You've heard my story. Another thing is, it's important to watch what your child is doing, what they're actually doing. Like, try to get into the mind of your child as opposed to looking at what they're doing and then being afraid of what might actually happen or how they might actually be thinking. it's it's challenging, which is why it's important for us to examine, as parents, us to examine what our own fears are, what our default reactions are, what are in our core belief systems, where they came from. Do they belong to us? Do they belong to our parents? Do they have a good place? Do they have a healthy place? And what you want to do is you want to sort of, meet them where they're at emotionally, developmentally, experientially. Meet them where they're at. See where they're at. See what they're thinking. Ask them questions if you want to know better, right? Where I here's an example. My son, who he was my fourth at this point, and honestly, you know, yes, by the time you get to your fourth, you've made a whole lot of mistakes and learned from all of those mistakes. So much more of those mistakes when you get to that last one. But each child you learn more and more from. But by the time I got to my fourth child and realized that he was just climbing everything, there was no way I was going to stop him from climbing. So in order to get rid of my own anxieties about him climbing was I taught him how to climb down. I was like, okay, turn around, feet first. Turn around, feet first. Turn around, feet first. And I just physically did it. Turn around, feet first. And so every time now I knew that if he went up, of course, we wouldn't just leave him alone climbing anything, but it really just eased my mind to know that if he was climbing up, I know he wasn't going to turn around and then go head first down wherever he climbed up. I knew that he was going to turn around and he was going to go feet first. Education is the best way to remove fear. I think I have said this in one of my videos at some point, but education, educating oneself and educating your child is a way to really meet them where they're at, but also give them fundamentals and give them ways to do things safely. And it also gives you, the parent, peace of mind. I think that is it. All right, folks. I am Camille Who, and I am out of here.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Camille Who, the Child's Whisperer. A heartfelt thank you to the generous supporters of the Books and Beyond campaign. This series wouldn't be possible without you. If you're a new or expecting parent, I created Better Parent, Better Future just for you. I empower first-time parents to embrace a positive mindset and navigate those early parenting years with confidence and joy. Click the link in the description to learn more or to find out how we can work together. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and keep leading with love.